Hello everyone, this is Tom from Taylor Hydraulics, back at the house with the previous cylinder, or piston as you may call it, off the Benpack BP18, 18,000 pound capacity drive-on lift, and took it apart, and it is what I thought it was. It's just O-rings that seal the unit. This is an O-ring here, of course. If it'll focus, you can see it's all chewed up here. Just an O-ring with some plastic spacers in there, and of course this will have to be smoothed off. And the unfortunate part about these is they don't have any neoprene or nylon guides as bearings. So once the O-ring wears out, the cylinder gets scratched up a little bit by the aluminum, which is not too bad because this is aluminum and the inside of the cylinder is steel. I've already checked the inside and there's no scarring or scoring, no marks. It's completely smooth inside. So that's the reason for the aluminum, but this will have to be smoothed out a little bit. Okay, it's, I've seen them way worse than that, but this is not that bad. But still, you have to smoothen it. And of course, this is an O-ring. Okay, there is most likely an O-ring in here. The last time I did one of these was probably about 15 years ago. And usually you don't have to replace these, because it's a non-moving part. The O-ring inside here is not going anywhere. It's not friction moving. It's not moving up or down. So the O-ring in here is guaranteed. I guarantee it's good. The O-ring here, as you can see, if the camera will focus, I'll show you when I take it off in the next part. You could see it's chewed up. I can feel it with my finger how bad it is. But the main seal that actually seals this unit is in this aluminum piece here. And right here, where my finger is a high pressure U-seal or U-cup. And you have the wiper at the top. The wiper is just a dust cover. Of course, it's going to be replaced, but if you didn't have one, you can get away without it. But the most important thing is the pressure cup inside here, which I'll take off in a little while. And believe it or not, this wasn't leaking as much as the rear of the cylinder. The main leak was the O-ring. But that's what they use in a lot of cylinders of this size. Sometimes they use piston seals or rod seals, but mostly it's O-rings. And you can even actually replace some rod seals with O-rings. They work just as well, if not better. Done that, I don't know how many years. I've been in the business, like I said, since '78, and I've never had problems using O-rings. But this one does call for O-rings. Okay. The gland nut or the stop ring wasn't too bad. It was tight, but it wasn't too tight. This is a 6.5 inch OD stop ring. It's not a gland ring, but it's a stop ring. And there's no room, there's no place to grab it with a tool, so the only place you can do it is one hole, and of course the old hammer and a punch. That's what you have to do, the old hammer and a punch with a nice little mini sledge. Give it a few whacks, and I had to go around quite a few times to do that. And then once you get that, then you use this bad boy. It's a 36 inch rigid pipe wrench. I think it's heavy in itself, but this is what you needed for that type of removal. Okay, water pump pliers that size are not going to do it. You definitely needed that, and came right off. Okay, and you also had a set screw, which you have to look for sometimes. If you see a set screw, you got to take that off, because that'll cause friction while you're turning it. So make sure if you do this by yourself, you look for a set screw that keeps it from turning. Otherwise, you'll be there all day and wondering why it's not turning. It came out pretty easy because the O-ring is worn, but sometimes these cylinders are actually easier to repair than the smaller cylinders. Everything is so bulky and heavy. All you do is just give them a couple of whacks and they slide right out. I was able to pull this out by hand. Usually I inject air in that cylinder, in that port, and it pushes the cylinder out by air. But luckily I didn't have to do that, because I'm sure a lot of guys in the business have done that, And then when the thing pops out, it sounds like a shotgun going off. Or at least get it to the point and then pull it out by hand if you can. So the guys in the business know what I'm talking about. Unless you have the machinery to actually pull it out, those machines cost, you know, $50,000, $60,000, which obviously I can't afford. It's just me in the business. The chain retainer, this thing weighs about 35, 40 pounds in itself. I mean, this thing is really well built. But I'm not crazy about the O-ring that Benpack uses. That's why I rebuild a lot of Benpack lifts in my time. I rebuild more Benpack lifts than any other lift, especially replacing the equalizer cables. The cylinders I'm always rebuilding. And, you know, in my opinion, they just use very, very poor quality parts. Now, I'm not saying that you have a poor quality lift if you own a Benpack, but I'm just going by the repair, you know, industry as far as, you know, the percentage of lifts, you know, versus rotary or Western, Challenger. I don't do too many ALMs, but rotary is another lift I repair, but not nearly half as much as Benpacks, especially the cables. They're always fraying and breaking. So they use I know for a fact they use the cheapest quality cable that's out there. And they charge you $159 per cable. Doesn't matter what lift it is, they still charge you $159 plus shipping. But I don't get the cables from Benpack. I get better quality cables at BC Wire and Rope. So those guys are fantastic. Have them made up. All right, let's see, anything else? Like I said, this came right out. And like I said, the oil, when it's connected to the power unit, the oil travels down the line, goes in here, okay? The cylinder, when it's attached to the lift, it basically looks like this, okay? In a outward motion, you know, lengthening mode. And when the oil comes in here, it pushes this back into the cylinder, and this raises the lift as it goes in. So it's a reverse acting piston. It's not a double action, it's reverse action, okay? Most pistons operate the opposite, where the oil goes in that way and then it pushes the piston. So this is actually the opposite with a 4-post. Not all of them work like that. Some have the actual standard push system. This is a pull piston, okay? So let me get these O-rings off. Let me get this O-ring off, these parts off, and then I'll show you what they look like. And that's really about it. By the way, this is a 6.5 inch diameter, so like I said, you're going to need a big pipe wrench. Unless you got you know, some decent sized chain grips that you have laying around, that'll do it too. All right, guys, this is Tom, Taylor Hydraulics in Glendora. Oh, and by the way, this is not coming off the truck. This is easily repaired right on the truck, especially if the cylinder is good. This stuff is way too heavy to even put in a vise. I'm not about to lift this off the truck. My workbench is full. I got 4 of the pistons on there, so I'm not moving anything. This is easily fixed on the truck, which I've done many, many times. So, all right, guys, if you have any questions, just feel free to post or email. Thanks.